Dr. Sarah Chen stood at the observation window of Research Station Prometheus, watching alien plant specimens thrive in their carefully controlled environments. As lead cenobotanist for the United Earth Science Division, she'd spent the last 3 years studying extraterrestrial flora from across known space. But nothing had prepared her for today's discovery. "Run the analysis again," she instructed the station's AI, her eyes fixed on the holographic display showing molecular structures. "I want to be absolutely certain before we report this." Analysis confirmed for the 7th time. "Dr. Chen," the AI responded, "the compound is identical to terrestrial capsaicin in every meaningful way. The Centaurian fire fruit contains the same chemical that makes Earth's chili peppers spicy." Sarah ran her fingers through her short black hair, still struggling to process the implications. They discovered dozens of parallel evolutionary paths across the galaxy, convergent solutions to similar environmental pressures. But this was different. This was the first time they'd found another planet that had developed capsaicin. "Dr. Chen." Lieutenant Marcus Rodriguez burst into the lab, his dark features flushed with excitement. As the station's security chief, he rarely visited the research wing unless something was wrong. "You need to see this. We just intercepted a distress signal from a Vilaxian trading vessel. They're claiming they've been attacked with chemical weapons." Sarah frowned. "What does that have to do with my research?" "Because," Rodriguez said, pulling up the transmission on a nearby screen, "they found some of our exported earth peppers in their cargo hold. They're treating it like a WMD incident." The recording showed a Vilaxian, their translucent skin flushed an alarming shade of purple, describing in panic how several crew members had been chemically assaulted after sampling human food products. Sarah felt her stomach sink as she realized the implications. "They've never encountered capsaicin before," she whispered. "None of them have. We thought it was just a cultural difference that other species didn't eat spicy food, but," she gestured to her research data, "we've just proven that humans are the only known species that has evolved alongside this compound. We're the only ones with the biological adaptations to handle it." Rodriguez's hand instinctively went to the hot sauce packet he always carried in his uniform pocket, a habit Sarah had previously found amusing. "Are you saying that what humans consider a condiment is basically pepper spray to every other species in the galaxy?" Before Sarah could respond, the station's alert system blared to life. A massive ship had just dropped out of FTL travel on the edge of their sensor range. Its design was unmistakable. Meraki Empire, the self-appointed peacekeepers of this sector of space. "This is High Commander Zixtal of the Meraki Enforcement Fleet," a gravelly voice announced over the common channel. "Research Station Prometheus, you are hereby charged with the development and distribution of illegal chemical weapons. Prepare for immediate boarding and seizure of all dangerous materials." Sarah looked at her research data, then at Rodriguez, then at the massive warship approaching their station. "We need to contact Earth Command immediately," she said, "because either we're about to start an interstellar incident, or we've just discovered humanity's most unlikely defense strategy." The next few hours were chaos. While Station Director Hammond attempted to negotiate with the Meraki vessel, Sarah and her team worked frantically to compile all their research data. They needed to prove that capsaicin was a naturally occurring compound, not a weapon, though the distinction was becoming increasingly blurry. "They're not listening," Rodriguez reported, returning from another emergency meeting. "The Meraki have classified all capsaicin-containing substances as Class 1 chemical weapons. They're demanding we surrender all research materials and submit to a full investigation." Sarah stared at the sample of Centaurian fire fruit floating in its containment field. "It's not just about the peppers anymore," she said slowly. "If humans are the only species that can handle capsaicin, and we've just found it evolving independently on other worlds, then Earth isn't the only source," Rodriguez finished her thought. "And controlling Earth won't control the compound." The station shuddered as the Meraki ship extended its docking clamps. They were out of time. "Lieutenant," Sarah said, reaching for the emergency containment protocols, How much of that hot sauce do you have left? Rodriguez grinned, pulling out his precious packet of ghost pepper sauce. Enough to make a point, Doc. Enough to make a point. As the first Meraki enforcement team prepared to breach the airlock, Sarah couldn't help but appreciate the absurdity of the situation. Humanity had always wondered what would make them unique in the galaxy. Who could have guessed it would be their love of spicy food? The airlock cycled, and Sarah took a deep breath. First contact was about to get very interesting and very, very spicy. The United Earth Defense Council chamber was in an uproar. Holographic displays showed the rapidly escalating crisis. 12 human research stations under blockade, trade routes suspended, and diplomatic channels going dark one by one. All because humanity's tolerance for spicy food had been classified as a biological weapon. Admiral Helena Reyes stood at the center of the chaos, her weathered face illuminated by tactical displays. "The Meraki aren't backing down," she announced, silencing the chamber. "After the Prometheus incident, they've convinced half the Galactic Assembly that humans are walking chemical weapons factories." "With all due respect, Admiral," General Zhang interrupted, his cybernetic eye whirring as it processed data, "we are. Dr. Chen's research confirms that even our mildest peppers can incapacitate most alien species. The ghost pepper sauce Lieutenant Rodriguez used to repel boarders. It's technically more potent than their military-grade riot control agents." The room fell silent as Dr. Sarah Chen's hologram materialized at the council table. She'd been evacuated from Prometheus Station along with her critical research data, but the incident had transformed her from a xenobotanist into humanity's leading expert on what was now being called capsaicin warfare. "We've completed our analysis of alien physiological responses," she reported. "The Meraki aren't just being paranoid. Their silicon-based biology makes them especially vulnerable to capsaicin. Even trace amounts can trigger a crystallization response in their respiratory systems." Admiral Reyes pinched the bridge of her nose. "So when Lieutenant Rodriguez's hot sauce got into their environmental systems, he accidentally demonstrated that a single human condiment could theoretically incapacitate an entire Meraki warship," Sarah confirmed. "That's why they're terrified. We're not just immune to their chemical weapons. We consider their equivalent of nerve gas to be a pizza topping." The chamber erupted in murmurs again, but fell silent as a new alert flashed across the tactical displays. The Meraki had just issued an ultimatum. Earth would surrender all capsaicin-producing plants and related research, or face immediate preventative action. "They're going to attack," General Zhang stated flatly. "They can't risk leaving us with this capability." Admiral Reyes studied the deployment patterns of the Meraki fleet. They were methodical, precisely positioned to strike Earth's major population centers. But something about their formation nagged at her tactical instincts. "They're keeping their distance," she realized. "All their ships are staying outside our atmosphere. They're afraid of our air." Sarah's hologram nodded eagerly. "Of course. After Prometheus, they must think our entire atmosphere is contaminated with capsaicin particles. They don't know it's not airborne unless properly weaponized." "Unless properly weaponized," General Zhang repeated slowly. "Doctor, how quickly could you develop delivery systems for concentrated capsaicin compounds?" Sarah blinked. "You want me to actually turn spicy food into weapons?" "I want you to give us options that won't kill anyone," Zhang corrected. "The Meraki are coming to fight a chemical war. Let's show them why picking a fight with the galaxy's only capsaicin-immune species was a mistake." Over the next 72 hours, Research Station Prometheus was transformed into humanity's most improbable weapons laboratory. Sarah found herself leading a team of biochemists, weapons engineers, and, most surprisingly, professional chefs. "The key is aerosol delivery," she explained to Admiral Reyes during an inspection. "We've developed a series of concentrated capsaicin compounds. Everything from mild discomfort to immediate incapacitation without permanent harm." The Admiral watched as technicians loaded testing chambers with different formulas. "And these are all derived from normal Earth peppers." With some help from the Centaurian fire fruit genetics, Sarah confirmed. We've also developed neutralizing agents that can instantly counteract the effects. No lasting harm, just very unhappy attackers. A junior officer burst into the lab, face flushed with urgency. Admiral, the Meraki fleet is moving. Long-range sensors show them entering the solar system. Reyes straightened her uniform. How long until they're in range? 6 hours, maximum. The Admiral turned to Sarah. Doctor, please tell me you have something ready. Sarah gestured to a row of sleek canisters. Mark I capsaicin defense systems, already in production. Every ship in the fleet will be equipped within 4 hours. She managed a small smile. Turns out chemical weapons development is a lot faster when your primary ingredients can be sourced from any decent restaurant's kitchen. As warning sirens began to blare across Earth's defense networks, Sarah couldn't help but appreciate the irony. Humanity had spent centuries wondering if they'd ever find their place among the stars. Now they were about to face their first major interstellar conflict, and their secret weapon was the same thing that made their food too spicy for aliens to handle. The spice war was about to begin, and Earth's curry houses had just become more strategically valuable than its armories. The bridge of the UES Bangalore hummed with tension as Captain Maya Patel watched the Meraki fleet approach on her tactical display. Her ship, along with 30 others, formed Earth's first line of defense. Each vessel had been hastily retrofitted with the new capsaicin-based defense systems, transforming Earth's military vessels into what some crews had started calling space pepper spray. All ships report ready, Captain, her XO, Commander James O'Neill, announced. Dr. Chen's delivery systems are online and targeting computers have been calibrated for non-lethal dispersal patterns. Maya nodded, her dark eyes fixed on the approaching enemy fleet. The Meraki ships were beautiful in their own way, crystalline structures that caught and reflected starlight like massive diamonds, and they were about to learn why challenging humanity's spice tolerance had been a terrible mistake. Fleet-wide broadcast, she ordered. Operation Hot Sauce is now active. The first shots came from the Meraki, precise energy weapons designed to disable Earth ships' conventional weapon systems. But humanity had already adapted. As the alien fleet closed in, expecting to find crippled prey, they instead encountered clouds of weaponized capsaicin. First contact with enemy ships, O'Neill reported, watching sensor data stream across his console. Dispersal patterns holding steady, environmental penetration successful. The effect was immediate and spectacular. The nearest Meraki vessels began to move erratically, their crystalline structures clouding as their crews experienced what humans would consider a mild vindaloo curry. Ships further out tried to retreat, but the capsaicin clouds had been carefully calibrated to stick to their hull plating, seeping through their environmental systems. "Ma'am," Communications Officer Chen Lai interrupted, "we're picking up internal transmissions from the Meraki fleet. Their universal translators are. Well, you should hear this yourself." The bridge speakers crackled to life with alien voices. "By the crystal cores, it burns. Emergency purge isn't working. How do they live with this in their food? Retreat. Retreat before violent coughing. Before they deploy something stronger." Maya allowed herself a small smile. "Signal the fleet. Phase 2 begins now. Let's show them what happens when you threaten a planet that considers ghost peppers a snack food." The Earth fleet moved in perfect formation, herding the disoriented Meraki ships with precisely deployed capsaicin clouds. It wasn't just about winning the battle anymore. They needed to prove that humanity could control this unique weapon with surgical precision. In her lab aboard the Bangalore, Sarah Chen monitored the effectiveness of her weapons systems. Each formula had been carefully designed not just for maximum effectiveness, but for controlled, predictable results. The mildest clouds were little more than an irritant, while the strongest could incapacitate without causing permanent harm. "Doctor," Captain Patel's voice came through the lab's comm system, "we're detecting crystallization in some of the Meraki life support systems, within acceptable parameters." Sarah checked her readings. Completely reversible, Captain. The neutralizing agent will prevent any permanent damage to their biology. They'll be uncomfortable, but safe. The battle continued for 3 more hours, but its outcome was never in doubt. The Marecki fleet, faced with an enemy that could effectively deploy their worst nightmare as a defensive weapon, was forced into full retreat. Their mighty warships, designed to withstand the most powerful energy weapons, had been defeated by humanity's love of spicy food. As the last enemy ships disappeared into FTL, leaving behind a scattered trail of crystalline debris, Captain Patil opened a channel to Earth Command. "Operation Hot Sauce successful," she reported. "The Marecki fleet has withdrawn beyond Saturn's orbit. Minimal damage to their ships, no casualties on either side. And Command, you'll want to note that we only use the mild formulas. They never saw our full strength." In her lab, Sarah was already reviewing battle data, preparing improvements for the defense systems. But her attention was drawn to an unexpected reading. Trace amounts of capsaicin had begun bonding with the crystalline debris left behind by the Marecki ships, creating entirely new chemical structures. "Captain," she called urgently, "I need collection teams deployed immediately. I think we just accidentally created something completely new, something that could change everything we know about human-alien biochemistry." The Spice War's first major battle was over, but Sarah Chen had a feeling they'd only scratched the surface of what humanity's unique relationship with capsaicin could mean for their place in the galaxy. And somewhere in the retreating Marecki fleet, alien commanders were facing an uncomfortable revelation. They had just discovered that the supposedly primitive humans didn't just tolerate chemical weapons, they put them on their tacos for fun. The Galactic Assembly's emergency session was being held in a massive crystalline chamber on neutral territory, a space station orbiting Alpha Centauri. Representatives from 27 spacefaring civilizations had gathered to address what many were calling the human question. At the center of the chamber, Dr. Sarah Chen prepared to present her findings, acutely aware that Earth's future might depend on her ability to explain why humans like their food spicy. "Distinguished representatives," she began, her voice steady despite her nerves, "what you're about to learn may fundamentally change your understanding of human biology and our place in the galaxy." The holographic displays activated, showing molecular structures that made several silicon-based delegates visibly recoil. Sarah continued, "The compound you see is capsaicin. To most species, it's a devastating irritant. To humans, it's a desirable food additive, but our recent discoveries suggest it's far more significant than anyone imagined." The Vilaxian representative, their translucent skin still showing traces of purple from their infamous pepper incident, raised an appendage. "You claim this is not a weapon, yet your recent conflict with the Marecki proved its military applications." "The Marecki attacked us," Admiral Reyes interjected from her position beside Sarah. "We defended ourselves using the mildest possible deterrent. Would you have preferred we used conventional weapons?" A murmur rippled through the chamber. The Admiral had made a valid point. Earth's response had been remarkably restrained, resulting in 0 casualties. Sarah gestured to new data appearing in the display. "But the military application is secondary to our main discovery." The crystalline debris from the battle revealed something extraordinary. When capsaicin bonds with silicon-based biological structures, it creates a unique compound we're calling bridging matrix alpha. The chamber erupted in confusion as the implications became clear. Most advanced civilizations in known space were silicon-based, a fact that had always set them apart from carbon-based humanity. A compound that could bridge that fundamental biological gap was unprecedented. "Initial tests suggest BMA could revolutionize interspecies medicine," Sarah explained. "It could lead to universal vaccines, improved environmental adaptation systems, even biological interfaces between carbon and silicon-based technologies. Humanity's unique tolerance for capsaicin isn't just about spicy food. It's an evolutionary adaptation that makes us uniquely suited to facilitate interspecies advancement." The Marecki High Commander, attending virtually to avoid potential capsaicin exposure, spoke for the first time. "You expect us to believe that your biological weapon is actually a gift to the galaxy." Sarah's response was to take out a small container. "This is a sample of Earth's mildest pepper sauce. With your permission, I'll demonstrate its effects on myself." She placed a drop on her tongue, showing no reaction. "What you see as a weapon, we see as a seasoning. But more importantly, it represents a biological bridge between our species that could benefit everyone." The archival mind, oldest of the silicon-based species, shifted their crystalline form thoughtfully. "The humans speak truth. Our preliminary analysis of their research confirms their findings. The capsaicin compound, while dangerous to us in its raw form, could indeed revolutionize interspecies relations when properly processed." A new hologram appeared, showing the results of independent tests conducted by neutral parties. The data was irrefutable. Humanity's spice tolerance wasn't just a quirk of evolution, it was a key to unlocking new realms of biological science. "We propose a compromise," Admiral Rice announced. "Earth will share all our capsaicin research, including the medical applications of BMA. In return, we ask for recognition of our right to maintain our cultural practices, including our cuisine, and acknowledgement that our defensive capabilities were used responsibly." The chamber fell silent as the implications were considered. Earth had essentially offered to transform their supposed weapon into a tool for galactic advancement. It was either a masterpiece of diplomatic maneuvering or genuine altruism, and no one was quite sure which would be more surprising. The Vilaxian representative spoke again, their skin shifting to a thoughtful shade of blue. Perhaps we have been too quick to judge human biological differences as threats. If their unique traits can indeed benefit all species, then humanity's place in the galaxy must be reconsidered." The archival mind completed. "Not as a threat, but as a vital link in the chain of biological diversity." Sarah allowed herself to breathe as the mood in the chamber shifted from hostile to cautiously optimistic. The truth about humanity's unique biology was finally being understood. They weren't weapons of mass destruction, they were bridges between fundamentally different forms of life. And it had all started because humans were the only species crazy enough to think that pain could be delicious. 1 year after the historic Galactic Assembly session, Research Station Prometheus had been transformed into the Interspecies Culinary and Medical Institute, where once there had been weapon prototypes, now stood sophisticated laboratories dedicated to exploring the full potential of human-alien biochemical integration. Dr. Sarah Chen stood in what had become known as the fusion kitchen, watching as human chefs worked alongside alien biochemists to develop what might be the galaxy's first truly universal cuisine. The challenge was immense, creating dishes that could be safely enjoyed by both carbon and silicon-based life forms. Try this version. Chef Maria Rodriguez, no relation to the famous hot sauce lieutenant, said, presenting a shimmering blue dish to their Meraki guest. "We've incorporated VMA processed capsaicin at just 0.03% concentration." High Commander Zixtal, the same officer who had once threatened to seize the station, carefully sampled the dish. The assembled team watched anxiously. It had taken months of work to reach this point. "Fascinating." Zixtal's crystalline form shimmered with what Sarah had learned to recognize as pleasure. "The sensation, it's like tasting starlight." And no crystallization response. Sarah made notes on her tablet. The successful integration of processed capsaicin into silicon-based compatible food was more than a culinary achievement. It represented a fundamental breakthrough in interspecies relations. What had started as a weapon had become a bridge. "Dr. Chen," her AI assistant interrupted, "the medical bay reports another successful treatment using BMA therapy. The Vilaxian Trade Delegation's environmental sickness has been completely cured." This was the real victory. VMA-derived treatments had proven effective against dozens of previously untreatable conditions affecting silicon-based life forms. Earth's medical technology was becoming indispensable to the galactic community. Admiral Rice, visiting for the Institute's first anniversary, found Sarah in her office later that day. "The Galactic Assembly has approved our proposal," she announced without preamble. "Earth will host the first interspecies culinary Olympics next year." Sarah laughed. "From chemical weapons crisis to cosmic cooking competition in just over a year. Sometimes I still can't believe how this all turned out." "Believe it," the Admiral smiled. "The latest diplomatic reports show trade agreements up 300%, military tensions at an all-time low." And she held up a tablet. 17 different alien species have applied for permits to open restaurants on Earth. The station's main gathering area had been converted into what the staff called the United Nations of Flavor, a space where representatives from different species could safely experiment with each other's cuisine. Today, a group of Vilaxian diplomats was cautiously sampling mild salsa, while their human counterparts tried luminescent crystal-grown fruits. "It's not just about the food," Sarah observed. "Every shared meal, every successful medical treatment, every new fusion dish. They're all proving that our differences don't have to divide us. They can make us stronger together." A commotion at one of the tasting stations drew their attention. A human teenager, part of a school tour group, had just amazed a group of alien observers by casually eating a ghost pepper. The aliens' universal translators were struggling to keep up with their excited questions about human biology. "You know what the best part is?" Admiral Reyes mused. "The Meraki fleet that retreated from Earth. They're now our biggest defenders in the Assembly. Apparently, any species that can weaponize their condiments but chooses not to is worth having as an ally." Sarah's tablet chimed with another update. The first successful birth of a silicon-based child treated with BMA therapy during gestation. Another medical breakthrough, another step toward a more integrated galaxy. "We thought we were alone in our love of spicy food," Sarah said, watching the diverse crowd in the gathering area. "Turns out we were just the first to discover its true potential, not as a weapon, but as a way to bring different forms of life together." The station's AI announced the start of another fusion cooking class. Humans and aliens filed in together, ready to learn how to bridge their biological differences through food. Above them, a new sign had been installed, featuring text in 28 different languages. "Peace through peppers, where different biology creates universal harmony." As Sarah watched a Meraki chef carefully handling their first Earth chili pepper, she reflected on how far they'd come. Humanity had found its place in the galaxy not through force or fear, but through their unique ability to turn what others saw as a weapon into a tool for peace. And somewhere in the station's secure archives, Lieutenant Rodriguez's original hot sauce packet was preserved in a crystal case, a reminder that sometimes the path to peace could be as simple as sharing a meal, no matter how spicy.